Hello, this is DbDMobile back after quite some time. Had a had a knack of doing a tier list for mobile since everybody's been doing one. You've probably seen it online in the DbDMobile community with a few of the content creators, and I saw nobody make one for mobile, which you could argue is not too different, but I still feel like it deserves its own because mobile is a slightly different environment. Or maybe I just want to do it because I was bored. Who knows? But I still want to give my opinion because I have been playing this game since the release, and it's been a fun ride. But I do want to see maybe if I can make some sort of an input. So this is my tier list. Uh, Obviously, if you want to comment and discuss some things here and there, I'd be more than happy to. But this is with me giving it my thoughts, which are going to be as followed. How are they affected by the mobile controls? Is one, mobile controls or auto aim, auto log, whatever you want to call it. Two, how strong their powers are that affect the game. And three, how fast can they finish a chase? Because that's also very important. That's how you get your pressure, and that's how the game gets rolling. And with that being said, we're going to start off with the S tier or the God tier. Now, these people have a very good chance of winning. You can still beat them, but most of the time they kind of take it down pretty well. But does not mean every time. And without further ado, first one is first. It's Nurse. Not a big surprise. Nurse is still very strong even in mobile. Her blinks are still the same. They can shut down pallets. She can run cooldown. She can run extending add-ons. She can just drag and drop from main game to mobile. She's still the same Nurse. She's still feared. When you hear that shriek, you better hope it's a terrible Nurse, because if not, you're about to get destroyed. Even with the mobile controls, honestly, she's still very very strong. So never underestimate her unless you can personally see that she is not too great. But they will learn one day, hopefully. And we will continue with that. Behind her is Spirit. Spirit, you can argue that she belongs ahead of Nurse, but honestly, she's still very, very strong in mobile as well. Spirit is hated throughout the community. She's always a gamble to play against. She still has very strong add-ons that can make her downright broken, even probably better than Nurse. But her playstyle of guessing always gets to people, and the mind games can be sometimes too much. So she has a lot of things going for her, and that's what I feel makes her stay in the S tier. I don't like playing her too much personally, but sometimes it just doesn't feel fair. It's Spirit, but that's just me. But even then, I have been having a very hard time against Spirits unless I'm running Iron Will, and even that's not even safe because of Strider. So again, Spirits are just very very strong, and they are to be feared. But do not let them get to you. You can beat anybody. Going right behind her is going to be Hag. Hag, I believe, is a comfortable spot in S tier because not a lot of people do play her. She's still fairly popular, which you do see here and there. But the thing about Hag is she's still an undoubtedly strong killer with add-ons, without perks, with her shackles or the Cicada. She gets her range. She can put down traps faster. I mean, she has so much that she can work with that can just make her downright disgusting. And also add to that is the fact that in mobile controls, it's one touchscreen tap away. It's not a mouse wheel, but it can still be a very fast response depending on the player that is playing her. So Hags can be still very strong to go against. Now, if you wanted to say that she belongs in A tier, I can see that. But she's still very, very strong in my opinion. So with that, we see who the God Squad is. We're gonna go below to A now. We're gonna start off with a good old Bubba. Some people love him, some people hate him. I mean, he's still a mean chewing pallet machine, and honestly, his cooldowns are still very strong, just like in the main game. It's You can still beat him depending on the map layouts. Obviously, there are always that is a small factor with him, and if the bubble you're playing is good with his tab movement. But if you even get to the mid game or late game, and there's no more pallets, there kind of goes a team. It's just biding your time on how much you can take without him downing you. You could say down to B tier is reasonable because sometimes the collision boxes on mobile feel like they're way too bigger than what they should be. So that can be a thing, and I can understand that. So maybe B, but I feel comfortably in A because even when I go against them, man, is it a very tough game. So I feel like Bubba is a comfortable A spot, even with the way he is, and even with the way how mobile is. It's a little janky with the refill bar sometimes. That is a thing, but once you get enough time into him as well, like any character, you can learn those timings with time. Behind him is going to be Pyramid Head. Some people would like to see him in A tier or S tier, but I feel like the changes that he had have him at the highest. I would say is A tier. Not really B tier because he can still shut down loops. He can shut down windows. He can shut down pallets. The whole point of Pyramid Head is to force the survivors to play to what you want to do. And the only thing that can make that a little hard is honestly the auto lock, which can mess you up in your timings and sometimes your inputs too, depending on your touchscreen. Because I've had some games where I do a flick and it does not go through. So the mobile controls can make that a little hard. If you want to add that factor in, I can say putting him down in B tier like Oni would be a thing, which you could call me a little biased because I do love Pyramid Head, but I can see that being 100% correct as well. But even with that, his playstyle that he brings to the match, I feel is enough to put him in A tier because the game will go into your favor. And he also stops DS and even Borrowed Time, which are two strong perks as well, which is Cage. So that can be up for discussion, but that's how I feel with it. And running along with a Huntress, you could say her as well, the same scenario, buff her down to B tier because of the current bug that she has, where her windup is not available to be cut until it is fully charged. So you cannot throw a hatchet until it is fully wound up, and that's really hard as Huntress. But factor that out, and she's still just as terrifying. I have been hit across the map a few times. It's always a surprise. Some people do love Huntress on mobile as well. I've landed some across the map hits as well. I think the most I've landed is 2 since I've played this game. It's still very, very hard, but she's still very high reward once you spend that time with her. Excuse me. So do not knock that out. I still feel like she can be downright disgusting. We're gonna get that patch soon, hopefully, where they rework her red add-on. But even with that not being like that, she can still be just downright amazing. She's still a really good character overall, and we'll see if that update makes things a little better. It might, it really might. So we'll go on to the next one, which is Fredmeister. You love to hate him. I don't know what to really say to him. He still has his teleport on any gen that he wants. His snares will be nerfed soon. This is me even accounting in the future nerf that he will be getting. I still feel like on mobile anyway, he still sits on A tier, simply because the snares are easy to slap on, and sometimes I'll be honest, his lunges just seem unfair, just flat out not right. You could argue the same thing with Miss Piggy on that, but it's just not right. So I don't know behavior. Maybe they need to look into that instead of nerfing his kit. But that's just me. His teleports still make him very strong. His snares are still annoying. I feel like unless they change that teleport or charge, then he'll actually be bumped down quite a bit. Or until more people will play against him enough to actually know his counterplay. So that's how I feel about him. But maybe you feel different. Let me know. Going down to the B tier, the good boy Oni, or Demo, excuse me, good boy Demo. You could say he belongs a little higher just because of how strong he can be and how well balanced he is, or how he will be even more with the coming update. But I've been playing Demo a little bit more right now, and with some L's and some wins, I still feel like he's just a perfect balance of everything. The buff that he will be getting will make him feel even better, but he still loses to some really janky mobile mischief, like when you cancel your charge, or do it too early, or you do it perfectly right, but the input's not there, and then these stages have the collision bigger than they should be. Like, there's all these little things that I know I'm repeating like Bubble, but Bubble has a one shot, and that's what changes everything, and Demo does not. So I still feel like he is a perfect overall balanced character. It's just those really janky hitboxes of the walls and some rocks even that just make him feel not the greatest. So maybe buff him down a little bit, but I feel like he's a solid, well-made character right now. And until we get those buffs, he'll be feeling a whole lot better. Going down to Oni, a lot of people have Oni a little higher because of his playstyle, but the thing about what I feel when I've played him throughout my mobile time, those hitboxes combined with the auto lock that mobile has just sometimes don't work. And don't get me wrong, you could still say he belongs in A tier because you've played him, 400 hours, and once you learned him, you won every game you have enough since. You know what? I will agree with you there. Like, if you put the time into him, then by all means. But the same can be said for many characters. And the thing about Oni that I feel is those hitboxes, the collision boxes that mobile has, just make him just feel unnecessarily janky. And that's what bugs me. Unless they address that, which is why the reason it could be that Blight is taking so long to get added, is maybe they do need to focus on that. So for my opinion, I feel like he deserves to be B, not A, because you can still have games with Oni and just bonk the entire team within like 5 minutes, and that can happen. That sometimes does happen, but he's still a disgusting guy who can take the whole team out because he's Oni, So unless you feel a little different, let me know. But that's how I feel with Oni. Even with his good add-ons, I mean, like I said, he's got a lot of things going for him. It's just the collisions combined with the auto-lock jankiness that happens with his dash is what makes me feel like he's not too great. But I could be wrong. Falling behind him will be Plague. And I feel like she's a nice little B spot, simply because of two reasons. There's not a lot of Plague players that go around, so you will get free Black Vomit, and you just go to town. And then sometimes that's the problem with pallets, is that her power still gets knocked out so fast. And that's one of my gripes with her. But even with that being said, as long as you learn the mind games and the tiles with her, it can still be she can still be very, very good. So that's my one thing about it, that why she's not a little lower, how a lot of people do seem to put her in. I feel like she's a solid B character because she can be very strong even with her Black Incense, or with cooldown, or the effectiveness. I mean, she can put on a lot of good add-ons, and it makes her just feeling amazing. Even without add-ons, it's a lot more time consuming, but you can still snowball if you get one good Black Vomit, and you can just steamroll with it. So she has things going for her. She has things going against her, but I feel like she's in a solid B. Unless they fix her up a little bit, then maybe she can actually move up a little more. And right behind her, I'm actually gonna say is Rate. We got his windstorm buff and his lunge buff because that came with it. And I would have normally put him like on D tier, but because of that, oh man, he feels just as good as on console. He feels amazing. Sometimes you get these lunges that just seem like you're playing Freddy with the speed buff. I mean, it's amazing. His built-in windstorm makes a very big difference too. You can actually traverse the map a little bit. It is still a bit of a downside. He doesn't have that teleport per se, or like Oni. Oni has that movement speed that makes a big difference too. But right, and his lunges and the way he can play certain tiles now, even safe pallets and safe loops, he can just destroy them. Like, oh, okay, cool, I'm gonna go bing bong, and I'm gonna bonk you. That's what makes him so much better right now, and I think he's not deserving of any higher or any lower unless they give him further buffs, which I feel like he's in a perfect spot. Don't touch his lunge. Don't touch his anything. Leave him as good boy Wraith. All right, he deserves where he belongs. Moving down will be on C tiers. Michael Myers. I would have normally put him on D tier, but I guess it's something with mobile because of its delay. There seems to be a bit more of a delay, and you sometimes get a lot more stock, or sometimes a lot less stock. It does depend on the connection and how the lobby has been set up. But he actually feels alright. He doesn't feel terrible, but he feels alright. So unless they get that addressed, then maybe he could be a little lower. I'm not too sure, but he's still Tombstone Myers. Even, I mean, he has a lot of downright ugly add-ons, but the way that he plays on mobile, like I was mentioning it, he sometimes gets extra suck than he's supposed to, or sometimes a lot less. But even with that, he still feels very good. He is still at the end of the day, man with knife. But he can also, the thing that I like about him, he can one shot you or more than 2-3 people even sometimes, depending how lucky you are, or if you have infectious fright even. That does happen, not as often, but he is somebody who you need to know how to use your stock, how to and when to pop your P3 basically. But if you want to talk about that a little bit, I wouldn't be against putting him on D tier. He does have a lot of struggles with people that bring toolboxes, or they're just gen jockeys, But that's with a lot of killers, but him especially, since he has no movement bonus except when he's in a level 3, when he gets the little speed buffs towards his vaulting and kicking. But even then, I mean, even talking about it, I kind of want to put him in D tier. Yeah, I could. I mean, no, we'll see. I'll stick to my guns. He still feels good in the end. At the end of the day for me. So we'll keep him there for now. I might change that soon, until we get like a following character. All right. But yeah, that's all. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Ghostface. Honestly, he deserves to be ahead of Michael Myers, but I just didn't fix up the last two. But he is a better Michael Myers, solely for the fact that he can stalk and 99 people, for example, and bring in cooldowns is almost a necessity with them, sadly. But the thing that still puts him down here is, instead of him putting like a comfortable B tier, is the fact that he, I guess it's because of the way mobile works and the delays that do happen quite often. I have been popped out of my shroud many times, and I don't know where the person is. Even though I get the indicator, I have no idea where they're at, simply because of the lag that happens sometimes. So until we get, I would say, better servers, I guess you could add this with Michael Myers, until they get that addressed, or maybe they find something better to work with the servers or the player connection, then he will go up a little bit because I lost my shot way too many times, and I'm just going, who did this, you know? So it feels really bad sometimes, if not a chunk of the time, sadly. But when you don't and you have good connection, he feels amazing. Like he feels really, really good. But it's that connection that makes it a little annoying. Um, yeah, that's really it. It's Ghostface. You love him, you hate him. Next person. We got Hillbilly. Now, a lot of people do have him a little higher, but I feel from what I've played, even on mobile, it's kind of he feels a lot better now, for one thing, because they finally fixed the bug where his revving of the chainsaw was glitched. They fixed it. So you can actually rev properly and control the bar. But even with that added, he feels better. But sometimes the people will just disappear on you. They're right in front of you, you're revving, you're going vroom vroom vroom, and they're gone. Because of lag, or they move to the left at the last second, or the right, and it looks like they're disappearing on you, or they have instant transmission, and you're just going, whoa, alright, I just missed so and so. So, what makes him suffer is the fact that on mobile, there's a lot more of those lag spikes, and in my experience anyway. So, it doesn't feel good at all. So you missed a whole chainsaw dash. Now you have to find them again, and when you do, you have to basic them because they're probably at a safe loop or a pallet, and that chase that was going to be 10 seconds turned into 2 minutes, and you just lost 2 gens or 3 gens. I mean, it just gets not fun really fast for Hillbilly. But then again, that is my experience. Maybe you guys are different. Maybe he deserves a little higher, but that's how I've been feeling with them. Maybe I need to pay him a little more. Maybe things are better, but we'll see. We'll see what the given time in the next patch. Behind him is going to be Miss Piggy. I wish she was a little higher, honestly, but even though I am also a Piggy main, I still feel like she's actually low, simply for the fact that I don't like that her mind game is so easily countered. You get her at a pallet, as long as the person stays on the pallet, you have to mind game it. When you get to the pallet and it's on your backside, and you crouch to do your dash, all you have to do is run away. You just lost all that time. And not only to add to that, her add-ons are in a very weird situation where her best add-ons are the brown add-ons and the VHS tape, because they help you with the chase and cooldown, and the belt helps you get up and down from the crouch. And also, she's in a spot where like 80% of her add-ons are useless, but then she has disgusting add-ons like the Tinker Timer, Gearbox, and Bag of Gears that make her bear traps just unfair to go against. So she's stuck between having meh add-ons to god tier add-ons that kill people because they will not have time to go through the boxes if they're unlucky. So even with that being said, on mobile, she still plays like a standard M1 killer, basic attack killer, but it's really her playstyle and her add-ons that I feel that need more love, and she needs a bit of love. All right, so once I get that addressed, then maybe we can bump her up, because whenever I play with Piggy, I know how to play her, but I still feel like it's just because of the way MMR is set right now. But I mean, even me being just honest about her, I still feel like she is not that great, because you can just be playing Pyramid Head or Bubba or Nurse and just be an even better M1 killer or one-shot killer. But she needs some love, alright? And behind her is actually Doctor. I feel like he's actually a C tier or maybe D, simply because of one thing. In mobile, there's more lag. So what that means is your shocks, since they're so important with timing, instead of him being a denying god that he can be, because he can deny pallet, he can deny vaulting windows, just like Pyramid Head, except without hurting you. You are denied, so you will get hit. I found myself doing shocks, and they vault anyway. I shock them, and they vault right after. So I've had too much of that, and I feel like, I mean, hell, I might even put him on D tier next time. To be quite frank, um, until they fix the servers, he just feels like crazy man that can shock you. Honestly, he does not feel too great sometimes, but that lag is what makes it very hard for me. And I don't feel like he can be any higher. I mean, he might just go to D tier next time if they don't address the servers, but that's just me. We're gonna go to the bottom. These are the guys that do need some damn love, one way or another. We have Clown. We just got him buffed too, by the way. We just got him buffed, and I still feel like he needs some more. Granted, he feels a lot better. The yellow gas is a nice touch, but you kind of find yourself throwing all your bottles for the yellow gas and then having like one or nothing left when you find somebody, and that doesn't feel too good. It really doesn't. So unless you're always carrying extra bottles, then maybe. But even then, he's still just kind of slow. If that sounds like it makes sense, because you have to use your bottles to move, and now you don't have any chase potential because now you have to reload. Which, granted, the reload is better, but I still feel like he needs something. He needs something to be added. So his map pressure is not there. His chase can be there obviously if you know the clown game, but if they do as well, then honestly they're just gonna leave you in the dust, and that gas doesn't do enough at the moment. So it feels a lot better, but it doesn't do enough for me anyway. Because when I play with him, I feel like I do have to try a little bit harder, and actually sometimes even proxy or tunnel, which I don't do too much. But because of Clown, sometimes that's a thing, and sometimes it isn't. And I don't know. We'll see. Going into Trapper. On Trapper, he needs to carry an extra add-on for the love of Pete. He needs something to help with that. Even if you fight against people that know what they're doing, or a team, and they see you're a Trapper, they're just going to be careful. And they're going to pop your traps. So he falls apart very fast unless you have very good luck, very good RNG. Even then, that's not good. So I don't know, man. Trapper needs love, and don't get me wrong, he can still snowball. Like if they fall into your trap side, where you have it all set up and it's all beautiful. I've had games where they just fall apart. Everybody gets trapped, and I start knocking them down like flies. They come for a rescue, they get trapped, and game's over. But a lot of it is just luck, and that's what I do not like about him. Give him an extra built-in bag space. Maybe fix his spawn points closer to him so they're not too far, so you don't waste your time. I mean, these little things might make a big difference, but I'm not sure. He needs some loving, and he falls apart too fast, and he's way too dedicated to RNG, and that's what hurts him in my opinion. And behind him, we're gonna go next to Trickster. We got him. We received Trickster. Sadly, he was the base Trickster, not the buff Trickster. And to actually make it worse, we have a very awkward wheel in mobile. It's like a little slider, and you can't really control it too well. So you have to somehow, or you could play claw to control the screen and the slider, but even that feels very weird to me personally. And he's just not a fun place right now. He's just not fun to play as, honestly. You could say that he is, and that's fine with me. You enjoy him. but he still feels like doo doo to me. Okay, like I might make a poo poo for him, like an own poo tier, but you can still win with them. You can still shut down short loops if you burst your knives because the recoil is so bad, and he can still do fair. But by the time you get one or two hooks, half the gens are gone. So unless we get that buff and future buffs, he might be moving up a little bit. So he still needs some more loving. But especially, we need a fix for that slider because it is to me, it is just downright tricky to use that ability. But we'll see. Maybe you have a different experience. Maybe you are a god with them on mobile, and let me know. But until for me they fix that for me, then I might be touching them a little bit more. And then behind them will be actually Legion. Um, I think it's a meme on mobile that you just get face camped by a Legion every time or Doctor, but you see a lot of Legions on mobile, and the one thing that surprised me is that they don't know how to play against them, or they get too scared because of his tear radius that can be very big or very small, thanks to some add-ons or even monitor and abuse. Um, Even factoring that, I have still won games against him just because it's Legion. I mean, he just cuts you. I mean, to be a little blunt, um, I have played him as well, and I have lost actually quite a bit with him. And I'm not an amazing Legion by no means, but I do know the basis of him, and it's still pretty damn rough with them because you have to go in the chase, get one, two cuts, uh, decide whether you want to continue it or not. And if you don't, you can cancel your ability, get out of the frenzy and continue the chase. And you can leave the whole team in a hurt state, which is good. But if they realize that they're just, I'm just gonna deep wound them anyway, and they just continue their gen, I mean, what's not to stop them? So you could say just because my experience is different than yours, maybe he can be a C tier, but I do find myself struggling with Legion on mobile, especially with the auto lock on as well that mobile has. It can be very janky with him. Same thing goes for the Trickster and his knives. They can be almost impossible to land sometimes. Um, he just doesn't feel too great. Uh, Maybe that's just my experience. Maybe some people play with them and they're just fine. Like they have no problems whatsoever. They think he's probably one of the best killers. Um, but let me know how you play him. Do you play in claw? Same thing with yours. Do you play claw mode? Do you play in your own custom, or do you have auto lock on or off? Because sometimes it doesn't seem to work for me, to be quite honest with them, and I've had trouble with that. I have a very difficult time with it. So that's just my experience. Like I said, we're all different. And then on the last, we don't have these three guys. We don't have Blight. We do not have Deathslinger, and we don't have the twins. So we'll have to find out when we get them, and when we do, we can redo this again and get them added. So with that being said, what do y'all think about this? Does it feel right to you? Does it feel like something doesn't make sense? Do you feel like I'm talking out of my cheeks? Let me know. I'll happily discuss this one because this is my opinion and I want to see what everybody thinks about it. So it's an interesting thing to see with the mobile. So do take care. I'll see you in the comments and I will catch you next time. Take care.